one example about what my partners Roberta and Vivian were talking about is COCO. It's a movie that showcases Mexican traditions such as importance of family, folk music, cemetery parties, and campesuchil flowers. However, this film also highlights the capitalism appropriation of Mexican culture. This commercialization contrasts with the struggles of undocumented Mexicans who cannot visit their family or visit their country to celebrate this activity like Dia de Muertos due to immigration policies, and also all the money that they are obtaining, all the money that they are profit from this movie is just for them. They are not like helping in any way the culture of from where they are like basing their content.
Yeah, I found another controversial film, and it's The Book of Life. Was produced by an American studio, and as such as being a part of the global marketing of Mexican culture. This raises the question of whether the film genuinely contributes to the promotion and cultural understanding, or just capitalizes on stereotypes and visually appealing elements for economic gain.
Yes, I really feel agree about the things like Vivian says, like trying to make these things could happen about the representation, and finally how cultural appropriation have these points like stereotypical, and finally to put a culture in like a gain of a personal gain about these things like the box office. And well, the example of Marco about Coco, I remember so much about one article they say like the like this tradition for us in Mexico. It's really interesting because Disney in 2016 want to have the legal part like to bring the Day of the Dead like a franchise, and it's really dangerous because how do you try to make like a difference when you want to take a tradition of a country, and finally that you have this profit benefit. And in the case of the Book of Life, like Evelyn says, it's really curious because they have a similar line between Coco, like it's like to be have to sell a product like a global marketing Mexican culture, and finally how these elements have an economic gain. But in my case, I have an example that comes in my mind, and it's a movie that called Viva Zapata, and this movie was directed by Elia Kazan, and it's interesting because this movie it's from 1952, and we could consider an example of cultural appropriation. And in this case, it's even not only the release of the dead; it's caused a controversy in that. And I told you that in this film, take a part of it of the life of Emiliano Zapata, and he was one of the most important figures in the Mexican Revolution. And it's touching topics related to Mexican Revolution, the prominent figures like Mexican historical context, like Francisco y Madero and other ones. And it's part of history in our country. But in this case, what is the problem? To begin with it, the story is directed, recorded, and produced by American filmmakers and based off a 1941 novel. And you say, yeah, they have a right way, but in this case, the director's vision was built and was based on the photographs and paintings. And however, the construction of this film will represent the figure that Emiliano Zapata represented in Mexico, and it was not considered of that. In fact, the first race and their voice of these things, the Mexican critic, who consider in the lack of respect, and in addition to sparking controversy over the choice of the cast of American actors who play figures in American history, such as Francisco y Madero, Pancho Villa, or Victoriano Huerta. And although the most criticized figure was Emiliano Zapata, of course, who has played by Marlon Brando, an actor who has originally from Nebraska, where his performance at this film itself we classify like a Western cowboy production. And when you saw different scenes in this movie, you can also try to put Emiliano Zapata like a character of these spaghetti westerns like the figures of John Wayne or Gary Cooper or anything. And well, finish this appropriation, the film was recorded in Texas, not even in Mexico. Furthermore, only one Mexican actor participated in this film, Anthony Quinn, while the majority of collaborators in photography, production design, and other ones are Americans. And given the situation, the film was not prevented for being nominated for different Oscar awards, where the only actor in Mexican, like Anthony Quinn, it's managed to win this award.
Yeah, I think there are different ground ways to work with cultural appropriation. This situation Robert was talking about is something that maybe can be, it is wrong, and it can be difficult for many Mexicans to be represented in a movie in which you don't feel associated with. So one thing Robert is going to talk about what we can do with this theme. Okay, well, in my opinion, we can start talking about all the grown ways to work with cultural appropriation and start um, changing these ways, because I think we have a perspective for different cultures, and it is okay to start talking about different cultures and have all these big and important information about different countries and different cultures. But it is important to have the correct way to start talking about it, and to be agree and in the same way as the creators and as the viewers, so we can work with a more inclusive and equitable entertainment industry that celebrates the diversity of plural cultures.
Yes, I'm agree with you, Vivian, and thanks for your comments. And yeah, it's important because when you saw these movies, and finally for other cases like West Side Story or Once Upon a Time in Mexico and another ones, you can see this difference about it, and it's have a point of view. Like we for audience have these things, like we can do a critic, and we can share with others this powerful tool. And yeah, we try to understanding all the cultural context in the world, and it's an important point because I think that the first for all, it's the filmmakers. And the filmmakers, they must have been an exhaustive investigation about these cultural topics, because when you share this context and you have a respectful manner, you can also have a success to tell these stories. And in addition to understanding and learning in hand, and we share to people who are close to this Mexican or Latin culture. And it's very important because you have a background about these narratives, and you can also see these things in screen. And finally, that you put in a cast, like they have such an experiences about it. And it's having the willingness to observe in fact. And it's very interesting because 1 year ago I talked from a Mexican director, an activist that had this point of underrepresenting people in cinema in Mexico, called Farideh Schroeder, and she mentions that she thinks that one of the mistakes that we had been made when thinking about a film production is the fact of starting to tell stories that they don't belong to us. And she said that very clearly, that she tried to use something to do in this process, which is experience, and it's the very important part of it.
Yeah, I think that if we approach cultural appropriation for multiple perspectives and with a focus on respect and collaboration, we can move towards a more equitable and enriching cultural exchange. That is the thing that really important, no? The cultural exchange and how we can learn about others and how can they learn about us.
And let me tell you something. At the end of the day, if filmmakers, they want to represent something, they want to show something, they really need to make some researchers of the culture they want to represent, for example, with some cultural consultants, in order like to ensure that there is a representation, but in a respectfully way. There's also a quote I like really much. It is from Faride Schroeder, that it says, "It's about telling stories that generally belong to the storyteller." And I think also that at the end of the day, the audience has a really big impact in respectful and inclusive media, because they are the one that are watching the movies and they are the one that are consuming that content.
Yes, I'm agree with you, Evelyn. And yes, thank you for all of us to take this time to talk with this interesting topic. And well, for listening to this first episode, I hope to meet the next time to talk about the impact of cultural appropriation they have in cinema and how we can make a critical analysis that may be relevant to the raising awareness. So thank you so much.
Thank you, everybody, for your time. I hope you enjoyed this first episode. It was a pleasure for us for having you, and I hope you have a great time. Bye.
See you next time. Bye. Thank you, everybody.